What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. I'm on my way to work, and I realized that I haven't had a sit down talk with you guys in a while. I thought, well, why not now while I'm driving into work? I'm sitting hitting traffic right now. Wonderful. I'm still learning how to balance creating content, um, finding my place in ministry, um, as far as serving goes, even with my family time, with my friends. I work a full time job, so some weeks I feel like I've got it all figured out, and some weeks I just feel like I don't, simply put. And I'm grateful to God that throughout this season of transition, because literally I have been experiencing transition for a long time now. Um, he's been with me, and I know that, and I feel him. He shows me every day that he's with me. Even when I don't feel like he is, he still shows up. And so I'm grateful and I'm thankful that I have the opportunity to be in a new space. Literally, my apartment, my job, the new church family, and community. It's been good. Um, but work has been work. Training, granted, I'm not like on the trains and stuff, but I'm up at the crack of dawn, and that was another thing that was like, whew, I had to get used to because I wasn't working in the morning. I worked in the PM hours. So it's 6:27 right now, which means I've been up before 5. And honestly, I think it all worked out pretty well because with church service, summer hours start with the summer hours service starts at 10:30, and before, when I was working PMs, I wouldn't have been able to meet that on time because I would still be like asleep or just waking up at that time. But now that I have like an early schedule for work, my body is already adjusted, and I'm up early every day, regardless of if I have to go to work or not. So I'm grateful for that, and it's been good. Um, actually, today is team night. Hopefully, I'll remember to vlog and take you guys on that journey tonight. Um, but yeah, work is good. I'm in a class with new people, new coworkers who like turned into family in a sense because we're with each other every day, and we'll be together until the end of the year, until we graduate. So I'm grateful for that. I'm getting used to, you know, procedures and the information, and I'm learning and I'm retaining. Because I was a little worried at the beginning. I was just like, oh my gosh, I haven't been in a classroom setting in a long time. But that quickly went away, and I'm, developing study habits. I'm disciplining myself, and it's working out, and I'm grateful. So as far as church goes, I have been uh, enjoying where I've been attending. Um, it's different, but in a good way. I'm still learning and finding my place, and I'm just allowing God to like, lead me instead of me trying to like rush the process and do things because I think they're necessary. Because even with transitioning and being in a different place, it was a little unsettling because I grew up in church, so I was always doing something in church, whether it was singing on the choir, I was an usher, I was on the media team. You know, at one point I was like as an agitator. If you don't know what that is, look it up. So I've always been like active in ministry, and so with this transition, literally I was able to sit down and just be a member, or a visitor or whatever. And it's been really healthy. I can't lie, like it's been really healthy. And the pastor, he he doesn't rush new people to do anything. He's like, sometimes God just wants you to sit and heal, and that's what I've been allowing God to do. And so now I've been going since the end of last year. And so now I feel like the Lord is just like showing me, and like just he's basically telling me like, yeah, you're ready to serve again. And so it's so funny because I go to a church in the city, and it's not a big church. It's fairly new. It's a new church, and it's two services. I always go to the second service. So the second service generally has the most attendance. And so I come to church. They've been sitting me because I go by myself. So it's like, all right, you're sitting. You need seating for one, so they'll just put me up in the front, which is fine. I don't mind. And so I go to church. I love the Lord. I love the worship. Um, I love it all. Like, I really enjoy myself when I'm there. The presence of the Lord is there. And I sit in the front and I just, enjoy service. And when service is over, I go home. Because, I'm still new. I don't really know anyone. And that's something else that I'm kind of like working on. And that's why I'm going to go to team night tonight, because I want to, meet new people and just maybe join a team or whatever. So I've been going to church and I've just been going home. And so, I've been seeing like myself in like some of the pictures and videos at church, and I'm just gonna be myself everywhere I go, honestly. And so one week the pastor, I'm getting ready to leave, and I never really like get to speak to him because everybody else always wants to like speak to him, and I just be out. So he tapped me and he was like, don't leave. And I was like, oh Lord. And so what really encouraged me is that he introduced himself to me, and he wanted to know who I was, and he just told me that he was encouraged by me. Every week that he sees me, he's like, I'm just so encouraged by you. And that really like made my heart smile, because not that I want to be seen or I need validation, or I need to be in close proximity with the pastor, because I know what that feels like, and I'm not in a rush for that. It just made me happy, because he introduced himself. He asked me like, what do you do? And like, I just love how you come and you enjoy. He's like, I love having you here. And I'm like, and I love being here, and it shows. And so that was really cool for me. And it's just like, my prayer was, that I want to find community in church where I feel not that my feelings are invalid, but like I want to feel like I'm welcome there. And I know this probably sounds crazy, but like, I'm black. I've been going to black churches my whole life, and this one people would consider a white church. And so it was a little like but now I don't care what people think. I don't care what they say. Like, I like it there, and I think I'm gonna stay. um all in all, it was just a beautiful feeling. Like, it's so beautiful to be seen and loved and known by God, so much so that he will just send like little reminders to you, like, you are my child, I see you, I love you. Even if it's through the pastor who noticed me before I even realized. He had shared a picture of me that they had snapped when I was walking out of the church, and I thought that was so cool. And I was just like, not like, again, I don't want to be seen, I don't need attention, I don't know, I'm not one of those girls, But it's good to know that, the Lord is like, yeah, I see you. You're doing good. And it's like, he's like a complete stranger who, expressed his encouragement, which was cool. I thought that was cool. But yeah. Anyways, going back to this whole uh, white church, black church thing. I don't know. I feel like some people just don't know what to say. Like people are noticing that I go somewhere else for church, and some people are, genuinely concerned, or they express whatever they express, and then others are like, "Oh, you enjoying them white people church?" Like, bro, first of all, if we're being honest, I'm not that I am against anything that goes on in black church, because a lot of black churches are very similar in that of structure and organization, and we're not in church for 3 and 4 and 5 hours. There's a real difference I've noticed, and I'm enjoying, because for a while I thought that, where I was and what I was doing was normal, which it was to a certain degree. But when you experience something different, something new, it kind of shifts your perspective. And that's really what it is for me. It's just like a shift of perspective, and I'm okay with it, honestly. Like, I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm changing, I'm healing, all the things. And because what? Church started at 11 o'clock, and I'm out by 12:15, 12:30 the latest. The first Sunday, I was like, okay, so what do I do now? Like, because we've been in church hours and hours and hours, and multiple services for more hours and hours and hours. So it's different. It's literally like a culture shock, and I love it. I'm not gonna hold you. I am enjoying it. And even in that, like, the Lord has been teaching me that growth doesn't look the same for everybody. Sometimes, for me, I should say, it's really like silent. Like, I'm not really loud about how I'm growing and where I'm growing. And growth also, it doesn't look like super exciting, because with transition, literally, it it's like feelings of grief all of the time, until it's not. Growth is not always exciting, but it's very consistent. And growth is in showing up and being disciplined. And I'm still in therapy, and that's really been a great, tremendous help. um, just navigating through life and navigating through my feelings, because people are literally like, oh, when you change churches, you must be going through something. And it's just like, some of it is true. Growth doesn't look the same for everybody. And even while I'm still yet growing and healing, I'm trusting God in the process. Because when I tell you, there's been times where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but Lord, I trust you, and He shows up. Even going back to work, like, we have quizzes and exams and things, and I'm not gonna lie, in the beginning I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do as far as studying goes. But when I was asked questions, I was able to answer them correctly, and I surprised myself. But it's because I'm allowing the Lord to lead and guide me, and I'm trusting Him completely in this season, because it's really just me, you know? It really is just, well, it feels like it's just me. Like, I have my community of people that I can rely on, but in those moments, it really is just me. Just really like learning even more, the nature of God and how He shows up, and just trusting Him completely when I don't have the answers, because I don't be having all the answers, Sway. So, yeah. So, yeah, I've been attending a new church. which is good. I feel safe there. I love that the pastor, like, he encourages, he always references the Bible to like mental health and like healthy mental habits, healthy communication. He encourages going to see a therapist and talk about your traumas and all these things. And a lot of the therapy talk that people hate to hear is needed, I think, in this generation, in this time, because a lot of people are dealing with a lot, and you can, but it's just not healthy to tell people, pray. You're not praying enough. You don't have enough faith. It's just like, yeah, no, that's not true. I just need somebody to talk to, somebody to listen, someone to offer, some expert advice. So I love that. I think he's very, very mental health conscious. Like, he wants us all to be good Christians, and that really stuck out for me last year. And I was like, And some people just will avoid therapy altogether. No accountability, just do what they think is right, even though it's not. So yeah, that's my quick little life update. I'm learning still. I'm still healing. I'm really trying to do better with like creating content, but honestly, I'm doing the best I can with what I got, and most of my time is split between work. And when I get off work, go to the gym, gotta study, and go to bed early because I gotta be up early. But it's cool. I'm enjoying this little life, this season of my life. Yeah, just keep me in your prayers. To work, I'm about to rack out for a couple of minutes, talk to the Lord, and get ready for this work day. I'm gonna take you on tonight's venture. It's team night, and I think it's gonna be good. Made it home after work. Didn't have much time to get myself together, but I'm together. Showered, a little makeup. I look like a little boy, but that's okay. Very, very New York. Anyways, let me gather my belongings so I can make it out the door. Literally never a dull moment in New York City. Want to see what I'm wearing?
I'm lifting both of my hands, 'cause you gave me chance after chance. But when I finally said what happened to me as a child, that I had undergone sexual abuse several times from people within the church. It wasn't just one abuser, it was multiple. And because I went through that, it actually costed me a whole lot. Then every other conversation I ever had after that was this denial of, I wasn't looking to hurt anyone, I wasn't looking to out anyone, but I think that when the truth came out, people all of a sudden felt threatened. What does this mean for the role that I played in your life? And what happens is in those moments, if you ever had a moment of confession like that, which again, I wasn't planning for, it just came out of me like water coming out of a faucet. As it came out of me, everyone all of a sudden is like picking their sides, because I grew up in a pretty small community where the same people still existed. So now everyone's like, well, wait a minute, what does this mean? Am I gonna get in trouble? Are you gonna come for me? My family got really overwhelmed. Are you gonna tell people? They're gonna think that we're bad. And I'm like, what? Like it's the equivalent of getting to a car accident, being completely sideswiped, and then everyone running up to you asking you, what are you gonna do? It's like, I don't have a clue. I just got hit by a car. And as I'm trying to gather my thoughts and I'm trying to grab my bearings, I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that. So when I hear that statement, that curiosity should not come at the cost of yourself, I think what happens is when we do become curious about our stories, when we're honest about what we've been through. Like if you're similar to me, which by the way, 2 out of every 5 people have a similar experience. But if you have something else, maybe it's not like me, but it's something else, and you get curious about it, and you start to now share it, what's gonna happen is people are gonna want you to shrink back because your story impacts theirs. Yeah. Or your story impacts their narrative. And they then want you to hold back. So when we're talking about this, I'm sure you have to walk women through what that looks like for them, and now with the decisions they have to make after it. Too often though, if they're codependent, they're worried about what their decisions are gonna do to other people. So maybe there's somebody in the room that doesn't have a counselor, doesn't have a therapist, and this right here is resonating with them. You know, how would you lead us through that?
Lead us through codependence?
Lead us through that feeling of, yeah, I mean, the form of codependency, but also like being honest when I give this truth, when I say it out loud.
My bride, all trauma is spiritual trauma. And I love that perspective because our spirituality is our inmost being, like very close to sexuality. Like it is so tender, so tender. And so I define spiritual trauma, 4 core wounds: power, shame, control, and abandonment. And especially when I hear codependent, I feel like it just depend on the person. But something that specifically comes to mind is working with people who are codependent, and this fear of if I'm honest about my internal world, it's going to cost me something, and something, a grounding practice, or people, I remind them that they don't have to. I'm trying to think of this line. I feel like we said it recently, but they don't have to abandon themselves in order to survive abandonment by others. Wow. Like they don't have to lose themselves in the process. They can still come back to their center, and I bring them back to God's good creation and design for their bodies, and that they don't have to forsake that in the process. But yeah, I feel like it's really contextual. He's the good shepherd who carries the injured lambs over his shoulder, you know. He leaves the 99 to find the one. And there's space for you in the messy middle. I just think of like God loves nothing more than to meet us in the messy middle of it all, you know. Like, I don't know, I'm hurting. And like emotional intensity and all these experiences that we might value aren't the same as emotional honesty with God, you know. Like we can get really hyped, but still not be honest about, okay, am I actually consenting to this? Or am I just doing this thing for this person so I look good? Like, God desires here, a place that is so tender, and desires to restore what has been lost to us in environments where the choice was taken. I don't know why I'm leaning in this direction. I didn't plan this, but especially it's just so tender. The heart of the Father is just so tender towards that person. And it is exciting. It can be both and. We can be excited about the thing and still honor the injured lambs,
So it's beautiful. I think counseling session, you have material to work with, you have stories to work with, but from a perspective of a broad stroke, what would be your encouragement to us from your perspective?
Yeah. Keep being emotionally honest. It'll lead you to a place with intimacy with God. Not from a place of performance or striving. We can be honest about the hard things. The point isn't that we do everything perfectly and that we never make mistakes, but the point is that we repair. We repair within ourselves, we repair within each other, we repair with God. And it sounds like you guys are trying to do that here, which is so fun, so exciting. But yeah, we need to value emotional honesty more. And it sounds like you guys are doing that. I don't feel like I need you to say that. But truly, yeah.
Well, no, thank you. And we always repeat it. We always say it because I think that we're trying to lead so openly with that. So even like that word authenticity and honesty, we repeat it so much because we want to keep reminding ourselves. So even in our vision is see the lost saved, the saved discipled, the discipled accountable. That term accountability for me is synonymous with honesty. I cannot hold someone accountable if they're not being honest, and I have no right to hold them accountable if I'm not being honest. Mm-hmm. This idea that we operate from emotional intelligence, that's only going to happen when we're being honest with one another. But thank you so much. Thank you for your time. So now all of a sudden you think, well, if I'm healed, then I'm going to be used. And if I'm not being used, then I must not be healed. Or if I'm healed, I got to start a TikTok channel. I got to start a YouTube channel. I got to start preaching on the trains. I got to start singing. And then all of a sudden we take it and we misappropriate it to do something with it that we shouldn't have done. What I love about Peter is that he has so much experience with Jesus that even in Jesus' final days, we get to see him mess up a whole lot. Peter messes up a whole lot throughout the whole time we know Peter. But I love that Peter's the guy that cuts Malchus's ear. Remember that moment in the Bible? He's supposed to be praying in the garden with Jesus. Jesus is asking them to pray. Everyone's asleep. He's trying to warn them, letting them know that he's about to be arrested. He's going to go on to the crucifixion. They're kind of listening, but they're not really listening because they think, we got Jesus. We have everything we need. And then all of a sudden, these soldiers, thousands of them, show up to arrest Jesus. And then as they're arresting Jesus, there's this moment. In fact, just to give you some clearer context, they say, which one is Jesus? And Jesus says, I am he. Now, that would be the same as when God says to Moses in the Old Testament, I am that I am. It's the only other time that it's a reference like that way in the original language in the Word of God, in the Bible. So when he says, I am Jesus, imagine when God says to Moses, I am that I am. There's that much authority on him. In fact, when you read the Gospels, you also know that when he says this, everyone falls down. Yeah. Which one is Jesus? I, the one you're looking for, am he. And then the soldiers who came to arrest him, they fall down. And then the disciples who are with him, they fall down as well. They get back up, and they still ask the question, which is silly in my mind. The only guy that was standing is the one you're looking for. Hey, which one is Jesus? I, the one you're looking for, am he. Everyone falls down again. And it is in the middle of people literally falling down because of the power of Jesus that Peter takes out a sword and cuts the ear of Malchus. In fact, some theologians believe that the only reason why he caught his ear is because he was still trying to get his bearings, and really he was looking for his neck. Now that's speculation. But here's a man that God would use just a few weeks later to preach to thousands. And 3,000 would be saved. Talk about healing. Peter cuts the ear of Malchus. What does Jesus do? He heals Malchus's ear. Jesus heals Malchus's ear. Do you know that Malchus's healing wasn't only good for Malchus, but it was good for Peter? The fact that Jesus healed Malchus's ear now allowed Peter not to go to jail. But because Jesus touched Malchus's ear, Peter, who sinned, is now free from sin because Malchus's ear was fixed. Malchus, who came to arrest Jesus, gets healed by Jesus. You want to talk about loving your enemies? Jesus could have said, good for you. Could have walked away. You're here to arrest me. But before he gets arrested, he still makes sure he touches the ear of Malchus. I would then also think that Peter would be so humbled that Jesus would do this for him, that he would be bold enough to stand for him. And yet, just a little while later, when standing around the fire, who's the one denouncing and denying Jesus? Peter. Which means even Jesus can make a way for you where you don't have to go to jail, and you do not have to be responsible for the crime you committed, and you could still deny him, which speaks to selfishness. But selfishness, just said how it's said, can almost make it seem like a bad form of character. It is, but I've learned that selfishness is deeper than that. There's something broken on the inside of us. There's something that needs to be healed in Peter. Jesus heals Malchus. Doesn't say anything to Peter. Then days later, after Jesus resurrects, he has a conversation with Peter. We know this moment. Jesus says to Peter, you love me? Peter says, Lord, you know I do. This healing happened over time. It happened with mistakes. It happened with mess-ups. It wasn't just an immediate healing. I mean, my goodness, Jesus touched Malchus's ear. He could have touched Peter too. Could have laid hands on him. A boldness could have came upon him, and then Peter wouldn't have denied Jesus around the fire. He would have done everything correctly. And I'm saying all of that to say that Peter yet becomes the man weeks later that would preach to thousands, and 3,000 people would get saved. And then I think to myself, is that the moment where what God heals, God uses? Because now, if there's anyone that is grateful for Jesus, it has to be Peter. Peter has to be. I mean, he doesn't have to be, but he must be. He must be grateful for this Jesus because, my goodness, Jesus kept him from not only going to jail, but he kept him from that cross. And maybe now Peter is aware, like so many of us have become aware over time, he took my place.